But the next president is going to change some of that. There's a whole bunch of things they can do on day one. There's some other things that they're going to need to do probably by statute. I think the odds are we're going to get some of this agenda, but probably not all. I think they should start with the Office of Legal Counsel memos, these secret laws that are the center of these two books that are on the bestseller list right now. These secret laws should never be able to be withheld from Congress. If the Office of Legal Counsel is saying this is what the law is, but nobody else can know it, and the administration is using that to override a law, wow. What just happened to rule of law? What happened to any ability to have accountability or pushback or good decisions? Congress should get them all, and almost all of them should be released. This one on torture that was finally released in March 2008 had stayed classified all those years since 2002 when it was written. The top security watchdog of the office that compiles these numbers inside the government, a 30-year veteran of government service, retired military himself, looked at that document and told a congressional subcommittee, this legal opinion should never have been classified in the first place. There's no sources and methods in here. There's no real national security information. There's no weapons system. This is a legal opinion and a legal argument. And it's secret because it wouldn't have survived the light of day. As Justice Brandeis famously said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. The reason it was secret is because it was unsupportable. And later, Jack Goldsmith then came into the Office of Legal Counsel, appointed by President Bush, because Goldsmith was one of the supporters of this unilateral presidency idea. And even Jack Goldsmith couldn't put up with it. But the document didn't deserve to be secret. So the next president is going to have to make some moves to make sure that those kind of legal memos and interpretations that the government depends on and that matter in the way the law is carried out, that those are public and totally available to Congress. And otherwise, we're going to go right down this road again. The next president has got to change the standards on secrecy to take into account the fact that most of the secrets, between 50 and 90%, don't deserve to stay secret. They can do it in two different ways. One of them is just to say to the bureaucracy, each one of you go to your own agency and with your own circumstances, look at changing your rules for the maximum possible disclosure. Because to protect the real secrets, they need to be very small. Justice Potter Stewart said this in the Pentagon Papers case, when everything's secret, nothing's secret. The core rule of a good secrecy system should be maximum possible disclosure or high fences around small areas. This is key. The new president can do that by ordering a new executive order. I think Congress is going to have to do it by applying some of the success stories from two statutes that were passed during this period of time. The Kennedy Assassination Records Act, which resulted in the release of millions of pages, didn't solve all the mysteries, but opened up files that otherwise never would have seen the light of day. And the Nazi War Crimes Act, which basically said to the CIA and the Army, you hired a bunch of Nazis as intelligence agents after World War II. You got to come clean on that. You can't sit on that. And this protection of sources and methods is not an absolute value. We have American values that are higher values than just the protection of intelligence sources and methods. A new president is going to have to put new guts into the Freedom of Information Act, because one of the first actions of this administration was to tell all the agencies in the infamous Ashcroft memo, if you can find a reason to withhold it, we'll back you up. The new president needs to say, you need to put it out. The purpose of the law, the presumption is the information belongs to the public. We're not King Louis XIV who said, l'État c'est moi. The state, that's me. We own it. And too often officials feel like they own it. But actually, we own it. And unless there's some real identifiable harm, it should come out. That's a change. The presidential records. One of the actions of this administration was to give the heirs and children, and for the first time, vice presidents, the power to stonewall on the release of historic presidential records. That should be removed. I mean, I don't think that Jenna or Chelsea really needs full employment looking through those papers indefinitely. I think we can do it with professional civil servants at the archives. The new president has to tell agencies, use the web. Look at these laws putting government contracting on the web. What about all the, car safety data? It took a lawsuit just on September 10th. Finally, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration finally posted all those car safety complaints based on dealer warranty information, but it's still withholding the field reports. But how are we going to empower ourselves to be safe? This is the core question. You know, it's the reaction by computer companies who, when they get hacked, who just hide it. Then that really empowers the hackers. You can't protect yourself. You can't protect your own computer. This kind of information should be up on the web. There are a whole series of the laws that need to be strengthened where Congress needs to step up. Limiting the use of all these other pseudo-secrecy standards. Authorizing judges to really look behind the claims of state secrets. There's a whole roster. We're involved with groups like the American Library Association, the League of Women Voters, good governments groups, consumer groups. We've had working groups looking at what are the things the president can sign on the first day, what are the things he has to order the bureaucracy to do, and what does Congress have to pass in those first 100 days, maybe in time for Sunshine Week in March 2009. There are a lot of specific ideas, but the fundamentals are this idea, this core idea, that the government is ours, and the government's information is ours, and it all should out. And when it outs, you find some really extraordinary and surprising things. And I'll just end with this little story from Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, because the controversy in this country over the Rosenberg spy case, atomic secrets to the Soviets, was a core part of our domestic politics all through the late 40s, the 50s. Think of McCarthyism. This was the scary stuff. This was fifth column in our ranks, giving away our nation's secret and putting us in huge danger. And the frame was always presented, were they guilty or were they framed by the government? And that was kind of the argument. And it shaped so much of our domestic politics. And now we get the grand jury testimony after 54 years. 57 years, some of it. Come to find out, the answer to that question, guilty or framed, is both. They were guilty. Julius Rosenberg especially was running a real spy ring and moving non-atomic secrets that may have done more damage than the atomic secrets. Ethel Rosenberg was witting but not really a participant. And the key witness against her, her sister-in-law, completely changed her testimony from the grand jury to the trial. At the trial, she said Ethel typed up all those nuclear secrets notes. In the grand jury testimony, she said she herself wrote them in longhand. Perjured testimony sent Ethel Rosenberg to the electric chair, and the prosecutors knew it. Government misconduct. The secrecy not only contributed to a political controversy where we could have had a lot more clarity about the real damage and level of damage, maybe even reduced our own paranoia in that time in the 40s and 50s. But with the greater openness, we also would have seen the ways in which prosecutors did the wrong thing and broke the law themselves. And this is the kind of accountability of government we've got to come back to. I think the next president has an extraordinary opportunity. A lot of these ideas are percolating. Many of them are percolating in the Congress. I think a new president is going to have to respond. We can't just return to the era of Watergate. We can't go back to the secret law because the government itself won't work well. And we won't be the citizens, and we won't have the government that we deserve. I'd really appreciate your questions, your attention, and I'd let you know we do have 2 full-time, very dedicated public interest lawyers on staff, so if the government charges you with unauthorized possession, we'll defend you. Thank you.